My brother and his two friends were looking to play a D&D game, but they needed one more player, so they invited me. I was vaguely interested in Dungeons & Dragons, but I never played before and did not know how to play. But despite that, I was really excited to do anything because this was a mid-pan, what's it called? So I rolled up my character, Tabaxi Monk, who is non-binary. This is important for later. The other players were my brother's two friends, the Furbolg Druid and the Human Sorcerer. My brother was DMing. The campaign started off amazing. I was having a ton of fun hanging out and learning D&D. The first few sessions consisted of us doing a few odd jobs and taking quests for the mayor of a town. Around the fourth session, the mayor sent us on a boat to drop off some cargo in a large town, but a storm hit us halfway there. There was some fun sea creature combat, but eventually I got knocked down to death saves. Luckily, I was able to succeed the rolls and was stabilized. Nevertheless, it was super fun. Since I was knocked out, though, I went inside, since we were playing outside, because, you know, virus, and got a glass of water. When I came back, the combat was over, and the DM told me that while my character was unconscious, the Druid and Warlock looked...
It's been 1 minute! What's wrong with you people?
This was a punch in the gut to me, and I just went back inside and didn't play for the rest of the session. I did come back for other sessions, but I made sure to tell them I was not comfortable with what they did, and they apologized. Then we proceeded to have an amazing rest of the campaign that lasted around 1.5 years. A good ending for once? Pretty rare. Hey, you know, if it works for you and you have fun, that's good. And forgiveness is a good thing, though what I've learned about myself is my kindness is rare, and my forgiveness is incredibly conditional, so yeah, you should probably be better than me. About a week ago, I had a really terrible experience with a game through Startplaying. I'm going to do my best to take responsibility for my end of things, but overall, I wound up really having my feelings hurt. I'm AUDHD, that's autistic and ADHD, and Dungeons & Dragons has been my special interest for nearly 30 years now. I'm already in a couple of really good games, but I still wanted another one, and joined this one along with a player I met in another game. We've become really good friends, but anyway, things seemed good in the first session I was in. I brought in a Dwarven Paladin, Oath of the Watchers, which is specific to the Eberron setting. For those not familiar, my character was dedicated to guarding against nightmarish spirits. The DM liked my character concept, and the other players were cool. We played using Tailspire with minis we made on Hero Forge. I actually joined the game on session 2, so I missed a little, but not very much. DM messaged me how much he liked the way I was playing my character. I felt really good about it. My second session, the group's third, was a very different experience. There was good camaraderie between all of us players. We had some fun banter, bickering, full deep thoughts. There really was some great roleplay, allowing our characters to get to know each other. Dungeon Master, though, well, the DM was weird that night. Some people wanted to be reminded of details over the past week. The DM was a little snarky about some of it, but we tried to laugh it off. At one point, we went to meet with an NPC the others had met, but I had not met yet. I asked the DM to describe him for me. DM didn't seem to know what I meant and said I should try to pick up from context. I was confused and said okay. I just wanted to know what my character was seeing, and I think maybe he thought I was asking for something else? I'm not sure what the miscommunication was. I do sometimes have difficulty finding the right words to make myself understood, so maybe this was on me? Sometimes I'm bad at getting the timing right in conversations, especially over voice without visual cues. Occasionally, some of us talked over each other, and whenever it happened with the other players, we apologized and took turns. I thought we handled it as best as we could. That was up until I was asking an NPC questions, and then responding apparently too quickly to things he was saying. I was hearing pauses where the DM apparently had not intended them. I apologized when his NPC yelled at me for it. He, quote-unquote, accepted my apology by saying I wasn't the only person interrupting, and then spent the rest of the session pretty much berating the group. The following day, he dropped our group. He said we weren't a good fit. He also kicked us out of the Discord before any of us might have had the chance to maybe friend each other so the rest of us could keep in touch. I didn't feel good about this experience. I'd been unsure if I should express my concerns with the now former Dungeon Master having lost the ability to befriend the other players before being dropped. That was my deciding factor. I told him pretty much what I've said here. I did tell him he seemed much more critical than he had in the previous session. I apologized on my end with unintentionally interrupting and explained that I have difficulty timing conversations. His response was, well, it was not kind. He said I'd been equally critical, but didn't really explain how, except that you asked me to explain the same thing in different ways, multiple times. It was very challenging to be your dungeon master. I'm not sure what that has to do with being critical, but as I said, it seemed like a couple of times we were failing to understand each other, but also that it wasn't just me. He seemed to be having that issue with everyone. I mean, I totally get where this guy's coming from. People can be just so complicated sometimes, you know? I mean, sometimes people say things like, I'm starving, I'm suffocating in here, help, I'm trapped.
Help! I've been stuck in this closet for years. I just want some food.
Like that. See? I mean, what am I supposed to do with that information?
I'm starting to suffocate here.
You're not making any more sense.
You haven't opened the door in so long. Someone help me.
This is the part that really hurt. Also, I understand if you have a problem with timing, but speaking in the middle of someone else's sentence is just interrupting them. That's not a timing issue, it's an etiquette issue. If you have trouble waiting until someone finishes a sentence before speaking yourself, you will have trouble playing this game with a group of 6 people. I'm still upset about that. He seems to have been insisting I must have been interrupting due to rudeness rather than having genuinely thought he'd been done talking and replying too quickly. I would have easily been able to improve on that in the future, reminding myself that I should give him a few extra beats to be sure he was finished speaking, but then he went on to tell me that my friend had warned him that I had a problem. Like, what the hell is the motive for that? Especially since that's not what my friend said. My friend told me that he said we'd occasionally have that difficulty, but haven't had any issues after communicating about it. So as I said, I'm not blameless, but I also feel the DM handled things very badly. And also, he charged $20 for all of that. Oof, this guy would hate me. I interrupt people just because I think what they're saying is stupid and I want to get it over with. But in any case, the writer here clearly is willing to accept responsibility for their side of the situation. However, it goes both ways. The DM getting this butthurt over a couple interrupted sentences is not worth it, especially over Discord. I mean, come on. Who hasn't been talked over on Discord? I understand it can be frustrating, but it's kind of one of the things you got to adapt to when you're playing online. On one hand, I 10% kind of get what the DM is trying to do here. When you're doing a paid game, you want everything to line up well so that you don't have friction when people are paying money for the experience. However, this is bailing out over something really dumb and also dumping a lot of really needless rudeness on a person that's just asking you what went wrong, and not even letting the group stay connected post-breakup. I mean, come on, that's just a dick move. The good news is, I talked to the OP, and apparently, Startplaying is investigating the situation, so hey, that's good to see. This is my first Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game with strangers. For years, I've been playing with close friends, but schedules and busy lives sadly stopped our weekly games. The Dungeon Master of that game mentions to me that they know another DM who is looking for players. I say I'm interested. He hooks us up and I join the game. DM of this game is female. I am a straight male and so is my cleric character. The only other player is a min-maxer straight female playing a Hexblade female paladin with polearm sentinel. The genders... they will be important later. So the DM told us that since the party is so small, she'll be adding an NPC who will help us here and there. The NPC turned out to be a male DMPC rogue, who is always 2 levels above us plus magic items. They don't just help here and there. Oh, no. They straight up take the spotlight, often being the one dealing the final blow against bosses, but more on that later. I need to mention that literally all of the NPCs are male, some of which have romantic relationships with each other. Literally, the only NPCs that are female are the villains, usually seductresses or femme fatale types. So we go around 2 sessions in, and immediately I don't like this DMPC. The DM always inserts the DMPC in every scene with my character. I notice that it's difficult for my cleric to bond with the min-maxer because every time I try to roleplay with the min-maxer, the DMPC will butt in. The first instance where it becomes a big problem is when we were fighting one of the main villainesses. She was hiding behind hostages, but we end up pummeling her and kicking her ass pretty good. Mostly thanks to the min-maxer's crazy crits. We told the DMPC to go help the hostages instead while we handled the villain. The DMPC argues against it. Sometimes it feels like the DM herself is arguing with us, telling us that it's a bad idea. After a bit of back and forth, we finally get this DMPC to leave the combat and help the hostages. Finally, a combat where someone else deals the final blow. Oh, wait, never mind, I'm down. Yep, the moment the DMPC leaves, the villainess one-shots me. The DM excitedly says, "Bet someone's wishing the DMPC was here right now." That ticked me off, but whatever. Min-maxer will fix this. The min-maxer goes and uses up smites, dealing absurd amounts of damage, and the villainess somehow manages to survive and paralyzes the min-maxer. No saves, just one hit and then bam, she's paralyzed. With both player characters out of commission, the DM describes how the villainess was about to finish me off as she's about to step on my head. Sorry. Then a bit of silence as she plays some heroic music and proceeds to describe how the DMPC just came right on time to rescue me and how he was so angry and furious that he let me go down in his watch. Blah, 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 blah. The villainess got scared and tried to seduce him, but he says there's only one person he loves. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, DMPC just one-shots the villain. When both me and the min-maxer recover, the DMPC proceeds to scold us about how we are so weak and reckless. The DM was also very obviously trying to hint that he is being harsh because he cares. Yet no, I don't care. I was planning on leaving, but I didn't, and that's because of min-maxer. After the DMPC leaves the scene for the first time, DM expected me to go with them and console them. My character and the min-maxer finally got to roleplay together meaningfully. We bonded over our near-death experience, and her character was a lot of fun and was pretty sweet. The DM inserted a scene where she describes how the savior of the day ends up being alone and ends the session. I spoke to the DM about it. I told her that it feels like this rogue of hers is like a DMPC. She said, "Don't worry, the rogue is only gonna be around for like 1 arc." I mean, I worry, but whatever. The roleplay with the min-maxer was enough to give me another session, just one more. I at least have something to look forward to. Come next session, the DMPC is now flirting with my character. There's no build up to it, just randomly decides to be flirty. He was also kind of mean to the min-maxer. Every time she speaks, he acts like she's being dumb, and the DMPC just makes things happen narratively to prove that she was indeed being dumb. We get into fights with a villainess, a character from my backstory who wasn't supposed to be evil. It was my aunt, who was also my mentor. Naturally, my character would want to speak with them and try to understand what's going on, and wouldn't just throw hands right away. The DMPC, on the other hand, just wants to kill her. He had this whole speech about love and choosing who you love, and I'm like, that has nothing to do with why I want to talk to my aunt. Half of it was the DM explaining herself and giving me meta-knowledge to prove that my aunt is now pure evil that puts Satan to shame. My aunt then nearly one-shots me. It comes with a stun, by the way, with a ridiculous save DC for our level, and the DMPC was going to slay her. Then actually tries to, intervene as she wants to non-lethally take down my aunt for my sake, but the DM wasn't having any of it. Even when my aunt was downed, DMPC executes her. This, of course, enraged my character. The DMPC says, "I'm ungrateful that he saved my life." The DM also says this out of character. DMPC stormed off once again, expecting me to go after them, but I don't. Once again, min-maxer got space to roleplay with me. She consoled my character and led to a very bittersweet, wholesome moment. We both saw the potential development towards romance in the future, and she jokingly says, "I ship it." At that moment, the DM just straight up tells me that my character feels an overwhelming guilt in his heart. I told her that's not how my character feels right now, so she gets the DMPC to come to me instead, and that he looks so heartbroken and hurt by me. Look, why do I care? But apparently my character does care. As the DM describes how my character feels tight in his chest seeing the DMPC like this, I cut her off and say, "Stop controlling my character. This is messed up." Poor choice of words on my part, because now she's accusing me of being homophobic and told me that I should be more open to guy-on-guy relationships, specifically guy-on-guy. She doesn't even say gay relationships.
If any of you
don't romance,
you're supporting
homophobia.
Oh, dial it back, Annie.
At this point, I'm done. The line between me and my character starts to blur. I did some immature things. I angrily asked the DMPC what they want. DMPC tries to tell me to snap out of it. I'm like, what? The DMPC proceeds to accuse my character of being seduced by the villainess, who was my aunt, both in and out of character. I just want to attack the DMPC for saying such crap. So I told the DM, I cast Guiding Bolt on the DMPC. The DM straight up tells me that I need to roll a wisdom saving throw to be able to attack someone I love. What? You know what, I'm not even going to argue. I'll roll the save and continue my attack. Being a cleric, I have good wisdom, so I saved. I hit the DMPC, who is then described unleashing a frightening aura and approaching my character, but he gets stopped dead in his tracks by the Min-Maxer's Pole Arm Master Sentinel combo. It was glorious how Min-Maxer interrupts the DM, describing the DMPC being all edgy. The DM tries to argue that this is out of character for her, and that this would break her oath because my character is the one who attacked first. Min-Maxer argues well enough that it is in their character and won't break their oaths. So the attack happens, but it misses as the DM randomly gives the DMPC the ability to parry as a reaction, which they never had before. I point out that Min-Maxer gets to attack with advantage due to my Guiding Bolt. So Min-Maxer rolls again, and rolls higher than the DMPC's AC plus parry, so yeah, he gets stopped. But no, the DM says they can't do that yet and must roll initiative first. We try to argue that it was a reaction, but the DM won't budge. Fine, being a rogue, DMPC had the highest dex, and obviously he rolled the highest initiative. He proceeds to approach my character. The Min-Maxer tries to use their reaction, but the DM says they can't because the initiative started with the DMPC already in Min-Maxer's reach, and thus did not enter her reach, which is BS. So yeah, the DMPC gave their speech about love and betrayal and downs me, which allows the Min-Maxer to use their Sentinel reaction as the DM made an attack. But the Min-Maxer missed. But she points out that Guiding Bolt is still active, which even I forgot. She rolls again and crits. The DMPC barely survives with Uncanny Dodge. Min-Maxer's turn now. She proceeds to one-turn the DMPC. Even with his 2-level advantage in magic items, he goes down. The Min-Maxer goes for the kill. DM can't even lie about his HP because we know how much HP he has. As DM always says, it's funny how the rogue has X amount of hit points more than the paladin. Well, duh, they were 2 levels higher. But yes, the DMPC is actually dead. DM leaves call without saying a word. Last I heard, the DM was talking to my previous DM, trying to paint me and the Min-Maxer as misogynistic. Well, there's always 2 sides to the story, I suppose. A romantically inclined problem player who doesn't seem to be playing a straight character. See, that's the kind of diversity and representation we needed on Pride Month. We've said this before, and I don't think it needs saying again, but I will anyway. Don't try to force romantic subplots. Forcing any sort of subplot can lead to disaster, but this especially can lead to the game ending. It's really weird. Don't do it. It's also nice to see a Min-Maxer not being the bad guy in a story for once. Just because a character is optimized doesn't mean they can't roleplay and can't be a big help to the party, especially, by the way, in a 2-person party where you're going to be at a big disadvantage as opposed to having much more players in your group. Now, at the end here, I do want to point out, yes, this story is a little too good to be true, tied up with a nice little red ribbon, but, you know, we're jumping into the what is true dimension with this, and hey, it's a fun story with a happy ending. Honestly, whether it happened or not, there were some interesting lessons to learn, and it was fun to read. And also, I just really don't want to go to the what is true dimension. It's so cold down there. I am DMing for 4 friends. We all get along together pretty well and love D&D. My players love my campaign. Problem was, one player, who also casually DMs, had created a totally unlikable, unreasonable, edgy character nobody got along with. I get where he's coming from. He wanted to create this man who fights for others but has endured too much to find any joy in life, only living for the cause of getting his daughter back. But how he handled it was special. He constantly lamented to the others about how bad his life was, without reminding them or telling them exactly why. He started to run away from children since every child and baby reminded his character of his dead daughter, creating weird encounters. When another player asked, "What can I do to befriend your character?" he answered, "Well, my character doesn't like it when you ask him questions about his past, and he doesn't like small talk, but he appreciates it when you help." How are you supposed to help someone who doesn't tell you what the problem is? He always had to be the main character, always, constantly, and he always got very silent when others told him that his character acted unreasonable. For example, he put the sewers under a city on fire in order to escape bandits, and when others reminded him that it was extremely dangerous and that the city could suffer, he just shrugged it off. Doesn't go well with a party of people who are generally good aligned. He just brooded, constantly reminding everyone of his misery. He didn't connect well with the others, didn't even talk to them properly. He disrespected the other characters' families. He acted like a total sociopath when confronting bandits to the point where he wanted to torture them to get answers. He, by the way, always stated that his alignment was neutral good. He hated the rich for reasons. He never explained why. He wanted to be a charmer with the ladies, but every time he spoke to a woman, he got absolutely creepy and said the most bloody predator thing you could think of. He wanted to be a Robin Hood-like figure, but he never helped anyone. He just caused trouble, not only for the party, but also the people around them. He wanted to start a revolution against the current government since elves took over after the capital burned down, trying to help build it again because the king died in the fire, and he didn't understand why the others weren't pleased to hear that he wanted to chase away the only people who were helping to rebuild their homes. He was racist too, told our drow bard that he shouldn't exist, since that one is a ghost who took over his body. Not understanding why the party told him that that's incredibly rude, he was constantly snarky, belittled others, and didn't care about their stories. He didn't act like a team member, and he absolutely hated if he wasn't the center of attention. This got so out of hand at one point that I, as the DM, took him to a private channel and asked him if he was still okay with how things are going, since the others clearly stated their resentment, and he answered that he didn't feel like it was a good idea that he continued playing his character, asking me if I could roll a new one, which I totally agreed with. Now, I put a lot of energy in him and his problem character. I remember spending hours talking to him at least once a month, telling him that he acts in unreasonable ways, and asking him to please stay in line with the others because they're getting super frustrated with time. He always promised change to me, but he never actually did. And those are just a few examples. And then he asked, could my character that we had to abandon come back sometime? Like for little missions? I honestly didn't even know what to say. It was clearly stated, not only by me, but by the others, that nobody liked his problem character, and that he was only causing trouble and uproar. He wasn't a good fit. So, him asking me if that douchebag could come back left me flabbergasted, honestly. I told him there was absolutely no chance I would allow him, since, 1, I didn't want to deal with all the drama and stress anymore, and 2, I would not allow him to have two characters, so to speak. That would just be unfair to the others. And he shrugged it off. Currently, he is playing a bard and said this one is going to be a good noodle, but he hasn't done or spoken much yet. I still think he's salty that his horrible character isn't allowed to come back. Let's count the small miracles in life, like this guy not getting kicked out of the group. Holy hell. Look, I'm all for second chances, and I'm glad that our problem player here got his second chance. But when you make a character who is incredibly unlikable and then refuse to move constantly when people want the character to improve, it's not a great sign for future play. I get what people like this are going for. You know, they want the character development. But the problem is D&D is long, and playing that much with a character who comes off as a dick is gonna get really, really annoying. It's what my character would do is only gonna work for so long. This game is meant to be fun, and if your character is resulting in other characters not having fun, you have successfully found one of the only ways to play a TTRPG like Dungeons & Dragons wrong. Okay, so this is about a DM I had a while ago. I was in a Discord server that was doing a looking for group thing to try and find more friends that were getting into D&D and other tabletop games. And I joined a group that was getting ready to start up in a few weeks. I messaged the DM to ask what other people in the campaign were playing, and I set about making my own character. He even let me use a homebrew subclass from a GM binder that I found and liked. Now, I know everyone has their own style of DMing, so maybe this was a red flag from the beginning, but I just figured it was how he operated. But I asked him for some backstory on his world. See, when I was playing my friend's game, he gave us all short little 1 to 3 sentences about the major cities and the land. Little things, like things that we could add into our backstories and make our characters feel like more a part of his world. The DM gave us nothing. I couldn't tell you the name of the city we were in. When I asked him about Underdark cities, my character was a drow from the Underdark, he said, figure it out when it comes up. That was kind of weird, but okay, sure. He makes a big fuss about making sure that we give him our backstories before we start our first session, so I sent him my Google Doc, which contained my full backstory as well as a smaller bullet point style list of things that I thought were important, and told him if we needed to change anything or if he needed me to clarify something, just message me and let me know. He sent me a thumbs up emoji. That was it. Fast forward a bit, I wrote that my character grew up being raised on the Church of Ellis. I'm not gonna try. With her older brother because their parents were killed during an invasion when she was small. Now I had written that it was a mind flayer attack, but this session it was brought up that the invasion was carrying banners of what was supposedly the big bad evil guy. Now, I didn't really say anything because that gave my character a reason to hate the big bad, and you know, that all happened when she was a kid. Maybe she thought it was mind flayers because they were usually a threat. Anyway, I let it slide and just rolled with it. It's the next session where things started to get bad. See, the first lines I had written in my character's backstory that I sent in were, "My druid doesn't remember the faces of her parents. She remembers the smell of books when she would visit her father in his library and the sound of mother humming when she played the harp. But they were nothing more than faceless memories to her." However, this session, we ran to a group of reanimated drow, and my character recognized one of them as her father, according to the DM. So I pointed out that she wouldn't know who he was by looking at him. She doesn't remember her parents' faces. Her older brother might have, but she didn't. The DM gets huffy and says some throwaway line about him calling out to my character, and that's how she realized who he was. I felt bad because it seemed like this twist, but it felt weird to me.
These zombies are coming in too quick. I'm gonna use my movement speed to get to the top of the hill. I recommend you guys follow.
Yeah, actually, that one's your dad.
What are you talking about?
I'm not setting up a joke. Look, it's literally your dad from the traumatic backstory that you don't remember.
No, I'm just gonna let the zombies go.
More things like this started to happen, not just to my character, but to everyone's characters, where something from our backstories would just be changed, and none of us talked about it beforehand. It all came to a head during what would be mine and our cleric's final session. Now, just to set some things straight, it wasn't just the backstory stuff that made me leave after this session. The DM also thought that assault jokes were funny, and would specifically target me and the cleric because we were the girls of the group when he wanted to make some sort of sexist joke. The other players would tell him to knock it off, but it did not seem to matter. Anyway, the session goes on like normal until we get to a tavern, and inside the tavern, my character sees her older brother. Now, for context, my character was banished from her city because an oracle said she'd one day kill her older brother, who was the leader of the city, and the citizens loved her brother and were planning on killing her before she could, even though she had no desire to kill her brother because, you know, he was the only family she had left. So in order to save her, her brother banished her to the surface, and she's been on her own ever since. So meeting her brother in the tavern was a big deal for her. It's a nice moment, and everything is going great, until all of a sudden, my character has to make a dex saving throw when her brother hugs her and grapples her. The DM then goes on to have this big speech about how her brother actually died during his second raid of the town, but because he was a warlock of Undying, he made a deal with the big bad to save his own life, and now he's going to help the bad guy destroy the world. And I hit my limit. I calmly asked when he became a warlock of Undying, and the DM says that I had it in my backstory that he became a warlock like our parents, and I responded, yeah! He became an archfey warlock of Ellis Star whatever, which is what our parents were. So he goes on and on about how it makes more sense for it to be Undying because drow are supposed to be evil. And I lost it. I told everyone that something came up and I had to leave early. As I left the call, I could hear him complaining. The next morning, I get a message from Cleric saying that she had left the group because she had pointed out that he should have talked to me about changing my brother's subclass. And he proceeded to target her character for the rest of the session because of it. He messaged me saying something to the effect of, well, it makes more sense for your brother to be the bad guy. So I guess we can work on rewriting your backstory so it'll make more sense. And took so much self-control to be polite and tell him I was no longer able to join the sessions rather than just telling him to flip off. A week later, the rest of the party disbanded. From what I hear, he spent half the session ranting about the two of us leaving because of how we were treated, and spent the other half killing our characters horribly. I think this DM had more problems than just not reading backstories. Their jokes sound absolutely, Irredeemable is a good word for it. But also, I just want to point out this one little thing. Guys, if you're gonna make an entire player character race evil, please tell the players before they select that race as an option. It's getting extremely annoying. And that is going to be it for today's episode of RPG Horror Stories. If you guys enjoyed, then please do leave a like. If you want to see more of my content, then you can check out our Q and Play series, where we answer your questions in a rambling, unscripted format while playing some video games. And hey, while you're there in the cards, subscribe to Crispy's Tavern to get more of our content as it comes out. And finally, if you want to leave your own stories or thoughts, go down to the comments down below. If you can't think of a comment, leave the comment. Happy Pride Month to let me know you made it to the end of the video. Hey, by the way, if you have your own horror stories, you can send them to our email linked in the description. But even if you don't have any horror stories, hit that like, comment, subscribe. I will see you all next time. Farewell.